and I think it's important for us as believers that we can kind of look at our lives and examine kind of the fruit of our lives and examine what God has accomplished in us, and look back and see, where am I? How am I growing? How am I growing in my relationship with God? God, what are you doing? And to soberly kind of take a look and take account of where we are. I think we get into trouble when we're looking at other people and trying to take account of their lives, because it causes us not to take account of our own lives. But this is a looking at yourself and saying, you know what, God, where am I? What am I doing? What kind of fruit is being produced in my life? And I want to, how have I responded, Lord, to your grace in my life? And the thing about God's grace, I believe that is when we really experience God's grace, I believe it leads us forward into something. It's like a call to come up higher, call to a bigger place. It doesn't leave us where we were. It's that call to come up higher. And so in the book of Judges, chapter 13, we're going to read, if they can get it up there. Anyways, we're going to read from this passage. But I'll give you a little background on this. In Judges, throughout the book of Judges, basically the people of Israel were in this cycle where they went from being victorious in the promised land, starting off victorious, starting off living well, doing well, being spiritually fit, and then they went into this place of apathy and where they were spiritually unfit in a lot of ways, and they consistently would fall into sin, be overcome with sin, turn away from God, and then they would end up basically, in a sense, in captivity in their own land. And at this point in history, they were dealing a lot of the time with the Philistines. And the Philistines were kind of this neighboring power that was near them that was always causing trouble for Israel. They were always causing issues. And so, I think we have it here. So we're going to read here in Judges chapter 13, and we're going to read the whole chapter. It's a powerful chapter. It says, "Again, the children of Israel did evil in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord delivered them into the hand of the Philistines for 40 years." So for a generation, they've kind of done evil. They turned away from God for a generation. I believe that in our context today, we in the church of God, we've kind of become apathetic. And this is not everybody, and this is not the entire church, but if you look at the greater church of North America, we've kind of become apathetic. We've kind of turned away from God. We've made a lot of times church about everything but getting close to God. And so for this generation, I believe there's a call to come to God in a powerful way, to return to Him in a strong way. Verse 2, it says, "Now there was a certain man from Zorah, of the family of the Danites, whose name was Manoah. And his wife was barren and had no children. And the angel of the Lord appeared to the woman and said to her, 'Indeed now you are barren and have borne no children, but you shall conceive and bear a son. Now therefore please be careful not to drink wine or similar drink, and not to eat anything unclean. For behold, you shall conceive and bear a son, and no razor shall come upon his head. For the child shall be a Nazirite to God from the womb, and he shall begin to deliver Israel out of the hand of the Philistines.'" So there's something peculiar here, right? It says an angel of God, of the Lord, an angel of Yahweh, an angel of Jehovah has come to visit them. As we find on later in the story, it says that they had seen God. So they see what they think is an angel of the Lord, but really, I believe this is an appearance of Jesus in the Old Testament. That Jesus always was. He always has existed from the beginning of time. From the beginning of creation, he was there. And throughout Scripture, he comes in different points of time. And I believe this is one of those points. Just as the Lord appeared to who? To Sarah and Abram and said, well, you're going to have a son. And Sarah was barren. At this same point, I believe Jesus is appearing to Manoah's wife. And he's saying, you're going to have a son. And he's going to be somebody that is holy. A Nazirite was somebody that had taken a special vow to the Lord. They had declared themselves that they would serve the Lord, they would seek the Lord, usually for a period of time. And they would abstain from wine, they would abstain from any kind of thing that was even grapes or grape juice. They would abstain from those things. They would abstain, as last week we talked about, the priests would not go near the dead. Well, they would abstain from dead animals. And they would not cut their hair as a sign. And that was like an outward sign of their devotion to God and that they were there for this purpose. And when a Nazirite would finish their vow, then they would I believe they would cut their hair and they would burn the hair as an offering to the Lord. But here I believe Jesus is saying to Manoah's wife, you're barren and you're going to have this son, and he is going to begin to set the people free. He's going to begin to do these things. And he is going to be basically, he's saying he's going to be holy. He's going to be set apart for this purpose. If you were a Nazirite, you were set apart to the purposes and the plans of God in your life. So let's continue. It says, so the woman came, and she told her husband, saying, a man of God came to me, and his countenance was like the countenance of the angel of God. Very awesome. Wow. But I did not ask him where he was from, and he did not tell me his name. And he said to me, behold, you shall conceive and bear a son. Now drink no wine or similar drink, nor eat anything unclean, for the child shall be a Nazirite to God from the womb to the day of his death. This is very unusual. A Nazirite normally would be committed themselves to God. But this one would be from the womb to the day of his death. Then Manoah prayed to the Lord, and he said, O Lord, O my Lord, please let the man of God whom you sent come to us again, and teach us what we shall do for the child who will be born. So I think that's always wise. When you sense that the God is speaking to you and you're not totally clear on what he's saying, I think that's the best thing to do. Pray and say, God, make this clear. Make it clear what we should do.
Yes.
Clarify for us. Come and teach us. Show us what we should do for the child. I mean, the angel of the Lord of Jesus spoke to him already and said something. But he's like, come and show us again. Verse 9, it says, and God listened to the voice of Manoah, and the angel of God came to the woman again as she was sitting in the field. But Manoah, her husband, was not with her. And then the woman ran in haste and told her husband and said to him, look, the man who came to me the other day has just now appeared to me. So Manoah arose and followed his wife, and when he came to the man, he said to him, are you the man who spoke to this woman? And he said, I am. It's kind of like a double entendre, right? I mean, that's like where you say I am and you mean something. When they came to arrest Jesus of Nazareth in the Garden of Gethsemane, they came and they said, are you Jesus of Nazareth? And he said, I am. And as he said, I am, there was like power that went out from him. And it says that the people that came to arrest him fell back. There was such power in that word. And so when he asks this of, I believe, Jesus, he says, are you the man that came to my wife that told her that we were going to have a son and everything else? And he says, I am. He is that man, but he is the I am. And that's the name of God, that eternal name of God, the great I am. So he says, I am. And Manoah said in verse 12, now let your words come to pass. That's a great place to be in agreement with God. What will be the boy's rule of life and his work? I like Manoah. He's like, what? So he's going to be special. So what's his rule? What's the rule of life? And what kind of work is he going to do, God? Like doctor, lawyer? What's he going to do? So the angel of the Lord said to Manoah, of all that I said to the woman, let her be careful. She may not eat anything that comes from the vine, nor may she drink wine or similar drink, nor eat anything unclean. All that I command her let her observe. And then Manoah said to the angel of the Lord, please, let us detain you, and we will prepare a young goat for you. And the angel of the Lord said to Manoah, that word angel, once again, the word angel really, it means messenger. A messenger of the Lord. Right? The angel of the Lord said to Manoah, though you detain me, I will not eat your food. But if you offer a burnt offering, you must offer it to the Lord. For Manoah did not know he was the angel of the Lord. Then Manoah said to the angel of the Lord, what is your name, that when your words come to pass, we may honor you? And the angel of the Lord said to him, why do you ask my name, seeing it is wonderful? Why do you ask my name, seeing that it's wonderful? You see, whenever there was an encounter with God, usually they call these a theophany, a revealing of God before the time of Jesus' birth in the New Testament. Often they ask his name. When Jacob wrestled with God, he asked him, what is your name? And basically, I don't think he told him his name, right? But he says, why do you ask my name, seeing that it's wonderful? So Manoah took the young goat and the grain offering and offered it upon the rock to the Lord. And he said a wondrous thing while he did a wondrous thing while Manoah and his wife looked on. It happened as the flame went up toward heaven from the altar, and the angel of the Lord ascended in the flame of the altar. Then Manoah and his wife saw this. They fell on their faces to the ground. When the angel of the Lord appeared no more to Manoah and his wife, then Manoah knew that he was the angel of the Lord. And Manoah said to his wife, we shall surely die because we have seen God. We shall surely die because we have seen God. But his wife said to him, if the Lord had desired to kill us, he would not have accepted a burnt offering and a grain offering from our hands, nor would he have shown us all these things, nor would he have told us such things as these at this time. Wow, this woman, it doesn't give us her name. It's funny, he gives us Manoah's name, but it doesn't give us her name. And really, she's kind of the main person here. But she speaks with such faith. She says, if he wanted to kill us, he wouldn't have accepted that offering from us. She's God a little differently than Manoah does. Verse 24, so the woman bore a son, and it called his name Samson. Not Samson, Samson. And the child grew, and the Lord blessed him. And the Spirit of the Lord began to move upon him at Mahaneh-dan, between Zorah and Eshtaol. So, here's the word of the Lord. If we could have my first slide here. I want to say that just as Israel was in a time of compromise, of evil, of everything else, in the same sense, I believe that in the generation that we're in is very evil. Evilness abounds. Wickedness abounds. Like some of the things that people have done, it's more heinous than ever before. You know, we see some of these shootings and things that happen. Like there have been shootings in the past, but they happen more often. They had a school shooting this last week. I think as I was listening to the radio, they said this was the 17th school shooting of the year. It's like, this is like the first month. And this is the 17th school shooting of the year. We are in a time where there's some heinous, horrible things. I think there are good things happening as well. But the wickedness of man is really abounding in a big way. And the wickedness of the enemy of our souls abounds in a big way. But in the middle of this generation of evil, God still has a plan. Just as he had a plan in the middle of the generation of Manoah and those guys, for 40 years there was evil that was going on. For 40 years they did not progress. And we as a church need to progress. We need to grow in God. We need to seek him. And I believe just as he called for Samson to be specially devoted to him in holiness, he's calling those today, and I believe he's calling us today to be devoted to him in holiness, in purity, set apart for his purposes. Those that will see God and not themselves as their source of strength. You see, Samson's source of strength, you know, when the Philistines asked, well, what's your source of strength? And he lied and lied and lied, and then finally he told his wife Delilah, he said, you know what, it's my hair. The hair was a symbol. That hair was a symbol of his devotion to God. It was a symbol of that relationship he had with God. And so that relationship that he had with God was his source of strength. When the Philistines finally captured him, right, and they have him in their temple of Dagon or whatever else, and he's between the pillars and he's tied up there, and he is powerless. And he calls out to God and he cries out to God, and his hair has not grown back at this point. It's freshly cut. But God gives him strength. Because here's the thing, the symbol, and we have to see that our source of strength as the church, as the praying church in this world, it's not the programs we have, it's not our beautiful buildings, it's not our fancy preaching, if it's fancy or not. Our source of strength is the Lord. He's the best thing we have, and He's the only thing really we've got going for us in this day. And so I believe that God, He's calling, He's got a plan in the age that we live in. He's calling for people specially devoted to Him, once again set apart in holiness and purity, and He's calling those who will see God as their source of strength. That our source of strength is in and through our relationship with God. Apart from that, we really don't have anything. Just as Jesus said, you know, as long as you're in the vine, you're the branches, but as long as you're in the branches and you're connected to the vine, you're going to grow fruit. As we look at ourselves now, at this place in life, let's look soberly and say, God, what is the fruit of my life? And here's the thing, you might not see everything that's the fruit of your life, so don't get all totally depressed. But soberly look at yourself and say, God, what have I really accomplished? What have you accomplished in me? Am I further ahead now than I was before? One good way you can see fruit in your life is you can see, well, who am I blessing? Who am I blessing? How have I been a blessing to the lives of other people other than myself? How have I done that? How have I seen that? Can we have the next slide? Yeah, thank you. I believe God is speaking to us in the age that we live in to do these things. To set ourselves apart to seek God. You see, the Bible talks about the church as being a bride, as being victorious, as being beautiful and holy and white. And this is the kind of bride that Jesus is coming back for. Victorious, beautiful, pure, white. Set yourself apart to seek God. Purpose in your heart to know Him. That's what a Nazarite would do. They were setting themselves apart to seeking God. They made a purpose to know Him. They said, you know what? I'm going to purpose. I'm not just going to let time go by anymore. I'm going to set aside specific time to grow in discipleship, to be in the Word, to be in prayer, to be encouraging others. I'm going to make a point of that. And begin to seek Him on a daily basis. Begin to seek His face daily. Daily. Once again, your source of strength is your relationship with God. Tell you what, brothers and sisters, friends, when I am closest in my relationship with God, I feel the most strength. When I'm not doing so well, I'm just like, whatever. When I spend time with the Lord, when I seek Him, when I'm close to Him, that's when I'm strong. And so, encourage you, seek Him on a daily basis. Next slide. This is just a quick one, but I believe that this God comes in grace to those who are aware of their inability apart from Him. His grace precedes His movement in our lives. There's none of us that God comes to out of our own righteousness and says, well, you know me, you're good enough now, and you're so fruitful now, so now I'm going to come to you. No, God always comes. His grace always goes before. His grace always precedes what He does in our lives. It goes before. And so, God came, I want to say this, that God came to this woman, Manoah's wife. What was she? Well, she wasn't fruitful. In a physical sense, she was not fruitful. She and Manoah together could not produce children. And God came to her and appeared to her out of grace. It doesn't say that maybe she was full of faith or that Manoah was full of faith. Maybe they were. But He came based on that grace. And He will come and He will do things in your life first by His grace. Not because you look good or handsome or you're the best talker or you've got all your ducks in a row, but He'll come to you first on that basis of grace. And that's how He will work, and that will precede His movement in our lives. Back to the story about Manoah's wife, right? And Manoah. These guys would have borne quite a heavy social stigma. And I believe that here is God revealing himself to this woman who might have thought that she was cursed. She probably looked at herself and said, you know, what's wrong with me? I can't have children. Everybody else is having children. I can't have children. So my problem? You know, I think when things aren't working out the way you think they should, I think oftentimes we kind of overanalyze ourselves in some ways, and we want to look for every fault and everything. Maybe I'm doing it wrong. Maybe I'm not holy enough. Maybe I'm not righteous enough. And maybe in her society, maybe they looked on her and said, well, you know, something's wrong with you. Over and over in her head, she probably prayed, and she probably had tears of anguish and of just, God, where are you? What are you doing? She just wanted what it looked like everybody else had. She wanted to be fruitful. Probably said over and over again, why not me, God? Why not me? I don't know. Anybody ever ask themselves that? Why not me, God? Or ask the Lord that? Why not me? I want to have what everybody else has, God. And it's into this place, into this person, to this woman, that I believe Jesus appeared. He came and called, came to bless her, came to fulfill some of the desires of her heart. Now, the desire of her heart would be a blessing for everybody else, right? He would be a deliverer. He'd be one that sets everybody else free. And he would be called the holiness and purity. Samson was this kind of man that messed up a lot. Messed up a lot. God still used him. And he worked oftentimes in spite of his messing up. But I want you to know that maybe you're in that place where you're like, why not me? I believe that God wants to use you. God will use you. And he will come to you in that place of grace. I think especially as you say, you know what, God, I'm going to pursue you. I'm going to seek you. I'm going to seek first your kingdom and your righteousness. And I'm going to set that other thing in second place in my life. That other thing that I want. I'm going to choose to seek you first. Some of us, we look and spiritually speaking, we can look back at our lives and we can say, where's the fruit? Where's the beef, right? Where's the fruit of my life? Here I've been a believer for so long and I don't see the fruit. Yet I believe that God, if you'll seek him, God will come by and through his grace and your hopeless and barren situation. You know what? Manoah and his wife were in a hopeless and barren situation. But Israel, at this point, was in a hopeless and barren situation as well. And I believe that God he will meet you where you're at. He will come based on his grace. He will come to you. Here's Israel, dominated within their promised land. My kids talk about heaven sometimes, right? And they learn in heaven. I think it was Deborah that taught them this, but she said that there would be really big fruits in heaven. I believe it. And my kids, they talk about that, and they say there's going to be grapes like this big in heaven, like big. And there's fruit in heaven. There's beautiful things in heaven. The promised land was filled with beautiful things. When they went and spied out the promised land, it was full of fruit. It was all set up for them. They didn't have to build it and plant the vineyards and build the cities. They were already there for them. They were waiting for them. Yet they've moved into the promised land and become basically slaves of the Philistines in a lot of ways. within their promised land. And I think that is often the picture of the church, and it's a picture of the Christian life. When we come to Christ and God moves in our life and God does some amazing things, sets us free from some things and everything else, and then we fall back kind of into our old ways, into our old lifestyle, and we begin to become dominated within that promised land, within that area of where God meant for it to be a fruitful place. God meant that our life with Him, that when we come to Christ, would be a life of relationship and of life-giving, life-flowing. That's what He meant. That's what He purposed. But yet, I know at times it becomes dominated by the wrong things. And we become, at times, unfruitful. And I don't want anybody to look at themselves and be like, God doesn't love me, or nothing else. I want you to say, soberly say, you know what, God, I want to change. I want to be different. I want to grow. I want to see some new things. In 2018, I want to see new things happen in my life. I want to see new fruit happen in my life. And I believe that God can cause fruit to come out of the barren places, out of the least expected, unlikeliest places. He will cause fruit. And God is going to use this barren woman, this wife of Manoah, to give birth to a deliverer. And this deliverer would be this man that was called and set apart to holiness. I want to say that just as evil increases in the world, I believe that God's goodness can increase in our lives. And I believe that we don't live in a yin and yang kind of a thing where, that's a whole Eastern thing where there's good and bad and they kind of are equal and they kind of flow that way. God's goodness and God is so much greater than the darkness in the world. He really has no equal. The opposite of God is not the devil. He's not even on the same plane. His wickedness is not even close to the greatness of God's goodness. He's wicked. He's evil, for sure. But on the scale between him and God, they don't even compare. God was never created. He always was. He always existed. The devil is a created being. I'm just going to wind up. We're winding up here in closing. But can we get the next slide? I believe men and women who will bring change and lead this generation will be those that have encountered Jesus in a personal and wonderful way. We come to Him aware we possess nothing, but He has everything. When we come just like Manoah's wife and we say, basically, God, we don't have anything. We're barren. We want fruit, God, in our lives. You have everything, God. It's all of you. And it says when Jesus says His name is wonderful, in the Hebrew it means, it's the Hebrew word pilei. I'm probably saying it wrong. It's meaning extraordinary and incomprehensible. So it means wonderful, but when He says His name is wonderful, it means wonderful, but it means extraordinary, and it means also incomprehensible. Why? So Manoah asks his name, so what is your name? That we can honor you. And he says, why do you ask my name, seeing that it's wonderful, but it's extraordinary? It's incomprehensible. Why do you ask me my name? So I want to encourage us that together, let us pursue. Let that be the motto of our lives, that we would pursue God, pursue this wonderful, extraordinary, incomprehensible one. Let's pursue intimacy with Him. Let's pursue this encounter with Him. I love the stories in the scriptures of encounter with God. If you're looking to encounter God in a real way, go back to His Word. Read the stories. Read some of these stories of when they encountered God. And invite God to come and encounter you. And you know what? We have something that they didn't have in the Old Testament. We have, through Jesus, that open door, that new and living way, that we can encounter Him. And I believe that as you do that, as you pursue God, as you make a point, I believe that you will be changed and you'll consistently grow in grace and in your relationship with God. If you're here today and you're kind of contemplating your fruit of your life, maybe you feel like it's not much. I think that if you come to God honestly and humbly through the grace of Jesus, He'll meet you. He'll meet you. Don't put on any airs, right? Don't make anything up. Say, God, I don't even know what I've done for you, right? But here I am, God. Use me. Come and meet with me. He'll meet with you. He will come and He'll fill the emptiness of our lives. And He'll gift us with His wonderful presence. It's not a religion that we've been called to. It's a wonderful, life-giving relationship with God. And as you pursue this relationship, as you grow in intimacy with God, you'll produce fruit especially as you stay, once again, rooted and grounded in His love. As you stay in those places. And as thoroughly and as much as the branch clings to the vine, as it's connected to the vine in such a strong way, it will produce fruit, and you will see fruit in your life in a powerful way. Would you stand with me?